All right, let's do it.
Okay.
I'm here with my friend Hannah today. We're trying this video chat thing, so we'll see how it goes. Hannah is married to Joseph for almost 7 years, close to 7 years, and they have two little girls, a 4-year-old and a 7-month-old right now. So thanks so much for letting me ask you all the questions that I have. First of all, I want to ask you about, I know you have lived farther away. You've recently moved closer to where you grew up and close to your parents. So I want to know what has been really rewarding about being close to home and what's been hard about moving back close to your family as you're now in this new phase of mothering.
Sure. So when we first had our older daughter, we had her when we were at school, and then we moved right away to start our first-time job. And she had a lot of health issues, a lot of sleep issues, and so for us to live, we lived in Arizona, and my parents lived in Colorado, and to live that far away where we can't just make like a day drive was really hard in those first couple of months because I was a new mom. I didn't really know what I was doing. I was homesick. I think it would have been okay if we hadn't moved right after she was born, and I would have had a kind of a support group of people I actually knew while I was pregnant. But we literally just moved like 2 weeks after she was born. So it's hard to be like, hey, I need to have you watch my kid while I sleep or something, because I didn't really know anybody. So that was hard, and I was flying home to visit my family a lot. Luckily, we had enough money to be able to do that. I visited them like every other month or something like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then we were able to get a job offer here in Colorado, and we actually moved in with my parents, and we lived with them for about a year. We weren't planning on living there for that long, but due to job changes, our 3-month commitment to stay with them turned into a year. So that was actually, it went better than I thought it was going to go. My parents are really cool. I think a lot of people, and my husband gets along with my parents too. I think sometimes there's in-laws problems or whatever, but luckily we all meshed pretty well. But there were some boundaries that we had to set up kind of early on. Sometimes I had to kind of be like, hey mom, you're undermining what I just said. Like I'd say, okay, to my daughter, I would say, we're not gonna have any more cookies right now until you eat your lunch or whatever. And then my mom would be like, oh, well, she ate like 3 bites. And I'm like, I'm right here. My daughter's right here. Like, that's undermining me, because then it makes it seem like what I say is up for negotiation.
Right.
So those kind of boundaries had to be set up. Now we don't live in the same house, but we only live about 5 minutes away. So those boundaries are more like, okay, they want us to come over every Sunday for Sunday dinner. And a lot of the time we are totally down for that. We are like, we don't have to cook dinner. That sounds great. We haven't seen our family in a while. But sometimes my husband will be like, okay, we need to have just a calm Sunday, or we want to invite some of our own friends over. And so I feel like sometimes I'm stuck in between my parents, where I'm saying, okay, I know you want to hang out with us and your only grandchildren, but I also want to, make sure that's okay with my husband. But my husband doesn't want to feel like he's making it so he can't go. And so it's kind of a little bit, we have to be careful with making sure everyone is okay, but we still get to hang out with both sides of the family, kind of thing. You kind of have to, I guess for me, it's more of weighing out the pros and cons. Like, okay, is this going to really irritate my husband? Or is this really going to be really tiring for my kids? Or do we have money for that? It's kind of like we can't be fun parents all the time. We have to kind of be practical too.
Yeah, it has to be a case-by-case basis.
Right.
Totally, every time. Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. Okay, so I know that with your first, you had a really hard first year, and your second has proved to also have some difficulties in that first year. So first, just tell us kind of what your experience was there. Why was that? Why was that hard? What was hard?
Sure. So I everyone has learned that breast is best at the beginning when they're pregnant. They're learning about the sciences, they're learning about everything. And so I was nursing my oldest daughter all the time, around the clock, but my milk was not coming in fully, and I was pumping around the clock. Um, we found out about 5 months of struggling, that she had GERD, which is like gastro something, it's pretty much acid reflux. Um, but it took us 5 months to figure that out. And then once we figured that out, it was like, oh yeah, no wonder she just wants to snack for 20 minutes at a time. And no wonder she throws up so much. And no wonder, you know what I mean? Like when you're in the moment, you're trying to figure out like, why is she, I feel like I just fed her. Why is she hungry again? Am I running out of milk? I just pumped this much. She should be full. And then she throws it up and like, oh, well, is she hungry again? I can't tell. She's crying, but I just fed her, you know? So
Right.
both of my kids, it was a stomach issue. So with my oldest, they diagnosed her with GERD at around 5 months. And the whole time I was just like, what is going on? I mean, it was kind of like in my head, in theory, I was trying to figure it out, but it was like, I'd never done this before. I kept calling the doctor's office and they kept being like, well, hold her up right after you feed her and then maybe it'll help with the spit up. And, you know, they just weren't really, I had to kind of advocate for myself. Like, this isn't normal. I'm not sleeping longer than 20 minutes. She's not sleeping longer than 20 minutes at a time during the day. So I was just kind of like, I had to kind of advocate for me and my child, because the other nurses were just kind of like, I mean, I'm sure they thought she's a first time mom. I'm just gonna give her some tips to try. But I was already at the breaking point at that point. So we got her on acid reflux medication, and it was like a night and day difference. It was like she still didn't sleep very well and she still threw up a lot, but she was such a happier baby. It was like, it made me feel like, oh, why didn't we get this help sooner, you know? So because of her heartburn, she didn't sleep well. And then she was really hard to sleep train and really hard to kind of get into routine, because like I said, she was kind of always hungry, always had a tummy ache. So she just didn't sleep for very long. And then she got in the habit of only sleeping in smaller chunks at a time. So around 6 months, we were kind of starting to get more in a routine with the medication. At this point, I switched to a special formula that helped her tummy, because I was like, I had already been pumping for like 5 months at that point. And it was just not worth it to me to be spending so much time pumping and cleaning the parts and, you know. So it made more sense for us mentally, my sanity. So we did formula with her. And so she kind of got into more of a routine. And then around 8 months, she had hip dysplasia, which required that we discovered it at 8 months, required that she wore a brace. So, and that was, she had to wear it every time she was sleeping. So again, the sleep was interrupted again because she was in this uncomfortable brace. So I tell people I didn't really start sleeping till after a year, due to all of her health issues. With my second daughter, we at least kind of knew some of the signs of the heartburn. And so we kind of got on it faster. It was like around 2 months. I was like, okay, this isn't normal again. My kids both had a great latch when they were nursing. They just always had a tummy ache. And I tried with my younger daughter, I just tried to do some diet changes. I really tried to cut out dairy, and the doctor had advised me to put rice cereal in the pumped formula, or in the pumped breast milk, and to kind of thicken it. And anyway, we were trying all these things. She was already on medication. She was on 2 different ones, and nothing was really working. And so I was just like so frustrated, because in my head I was like, oh, I had a hard baby first, I'll have an easy baby second. Like that's what we convince ourselves, like, oh, I already served my time. But it was the same symptoms. And so we figured out with her around 4 months, we started her on the hypoallergenic formula, and she's like a night and day difference. Her sleep doubled. She still isn't a lovely sleeper, but you can just tell she's not in pain anymore. So I always tell people, stop beating your head over the wall. Like, just, if formula is what's going to work for you. And my baby's, like, I think that's what helps me change to formula so easily, because I know it's a really emotional transition. But I had already seen them suffering for so long that when they do go on the formula, it's a lot easier for me to be like, this is best, that is best, you know? And I always tell moms who are struggling with switching over to formula, and if they do end up switching over to formula, I just tell them, all right, your body is yours again. Go buy yourself a sexy bra. Go do whatever you need to do to celebrate, you know, and just kind of make it not so bitter, you know, make it a little bit more bittersweet. Because I know it is really hard when you read all the lovely bonding breastfeeding posts on Instagram or whatever. So those are kind of our struggles. They were more the digestive struggles. And I feel like adapting to having a child and then having a second child is hard enough. But if you have like a colicky baby on top of it, it can be really brutal. So luckily I have had my family to be able to rely on, you know, living close by. So.
Sure. I can't even imagine getting that little sleep for a year. I think I'd be a disaster. All right, well, we've added a friend to this conversation. This is our little 7-month-old friend. Okay, so I finally just want to ask you about your new project. You've got new Instagram handle and Facebook page. I think that's it, right? You're not on Twitter or anything.
Instagram.
So it's Motherhood Unfolded, and you're doing kind of a similar thing as our More Than is kind of highlighting mothers and their different experiences in their mothering. So first of all, I just want to know kind of where did this come from, and why now?
Sure. So I was on a trip with my husband with kid free, and it was just for like a weekend. And I feel like those are the times when you have clarity because you're not like wiping someone's nose or or wiping down a counter, or, you know, someone needs your attention all the time. That's kind of when it happened. That's when I had the idea. And I guess because I was struggling with her feeding troubles, every time I shared about it on Instagram or Facebook or with a friend, they always opened up to me and told me their struggles. And I was like, why don't we talk about this more, you know? And so I think it was like in March or something. So she was born in January. It was in March, and I was at my wit's end because she was just crying nonstop. And she just lived in the baby carrier because I couldn't get her to not cry. And I had a moment where I just shared on my Instagram stories, and I was like, ladies, if you're going through something any way similar to what I'm going through, I see you. Let's talk about it. And I had like 15 people contact me that day. And I've never had 15 people text me in 1 hour, you know, my whole life. Yeah. So I think I just was kind of like, well, I would love to capture all these stories and put them in one place so that young moms or, you know, moms that just do the 2 kids or whatever it might be, they can have somewhere to kind of relate with other women. And my husband Joseph is very business minded, and he was kind of like helping me brainstorm about like the logistics of it all, because I was just kind of like, it's kind of like a wish. And I was like, I probably can't do it because I'm not sleeping and I'm not, you know, I've got 10,000 other things going on. But it also was kind of like, this is kind of for me. It's fun for me to interview other ladies. It's fun for me to hear what other people have struggled with. I mean, I don't want it to always be focused on just people's struggles, but I feel like we don't talk about that. So it's kind of nice to bring those things to the light. But I just feel like we all have our own story. Maybe if we think we have a normal life, there's still something we can all learn from each other. So that's kind of the inspiration, how it came to be. So it's only been since like June. But my goal is for people to have a conversation in the comments, to be like, oh my gosh, I also had to do that fertility treatment, or I can totally relate to that. I haven't slept in 2 years or whatever. Like, I would just love for connection to happen in the comments. And I feel like that would bring me joy. I don't know. I always tell people that they need to do something for them so that they can be the best mom that they can be. And right now, this is kind of my project that I can do at home. And I just feel like as women, we can buoy each other up. We can link arms and become stronger, because it really is, becoming a mom is like such a crazy life change, and it's a good life change, but it's also can have a lot of hard and a lot of dark stuff. So for us to be able to be like, we can do this together, is really, really fun for me.
Cool. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. That's cool. All right, are you ready for your questionnaire?
I think so.
I'm going to ask you 7 questions. Hannah, what is your favorite sound?
I think it might be the sound of like ocean waves.
What's your least favorite sound?
We live on a busy road right here, and so I would say like sirens.
What's your favorite word?
I don't know. Right now, it probably would be wholeness or mindfulness, because that's what I'm searching for right now. I mean, kind of like we've been talking about, we're trying to find who we are even after we're moms. So I would say probably wholeness or balance or mindfulness. So that's 3 words. So
That's all right. That's allowed. What do you know?
I know that there's a God and that He hears my prayers. That, I guess I didn't say this earlier, but that would be one of the things too that got me through all the hard with both my kids early on, is just praying about it, just being like, help me, send a miracle, because sometimes that's all you can do is just pray that you won't lose it.
What do you want to learn?
I want to learn how to budget and meal plan really well. Like, I feel like I'm pretty organized. I'm pretty good at like coming up with meal plans, but to actually like save money or coupon, I think that would be super fun and super interesting. But I also feel like it's something that takes time to learn and takes time to do. So I haven't done it.
Yeah. So. Hard to find the energy.
Some people are really frugal, and I'm just not that way.
Gotcha. Hannah, what scares you?
I am scared that something's going to happen to my children or my husband. I just don't know how I would cope with that.
Fair. And Hannah, what are you good at?
I would say I'm pretty good at organizing, for the most part. That was probably the hardest part with adjusting to 2 kids, is when I had 1 kid, I could kind of still do what I needed to get done around the house. I could still, sort a kid's closet or something. Now that I have 2 kids, it's like I have not a lot of extra time to spend cleaning or organizing a closet. So that was really hard, because I'm I would say I'm a little bit type A. I really like things a certain way. I'm kind of particular. So I am good at organizing, but when you have 2 kids, it's hard to put that on the back burner.
Yeah, that's fair. All right. Thank you so much for doing this with me. I really appreciate it.